So in an earlier recording, I showed you the Snap theme on Moodle Rooms. For a quick recap, it's a very clean aesthetic. It's single column. Their blocks are not visible or they're hidden away. There's no editing on and off button. And if you're an editor, editing is just on all the time. So I am an editor, and so I see these little user interfaces which allow me to edit the content of this page. But some of the normal user interfaces that you would normally expect with Moodle, such as the ability to drag things up and down and a whole complexity of buttons that the editor sees, those have been removed from the user interface, which, to be honest, now I've been using it for a little while, I kind of like. Okay, now let's have a look at the alternative theme that they support, which is Boost. I can't show you that on Moodle Rooms because I don't have enough power to swap themes. However, I have run up Boost on my own install of Moodle, and I've also deployed the One Topics navigation. Other than that, it's completely vanilla. I've done nothing by way of theming. So this is basically it out of the box. I've brought across the GoTAF delivery template just to see how that looks. So it's quite stark in terms of user interface. It's very kind of monochrome at the moment, but of course the idea is that you would then theme that up. I'll come to that later. The user interface has a few features to it. There is a left-hand menu which is collapsed out of way that shows the normal navigation. So that's just been hidden out of view, freeing a bit more space up. That's fine. Again, there is no turning editing on and off. There's no edit button. However, what you do in this instance is you go to the cog and you turn on editing here. So whilst the notion of editing on and off still exists, the button has been hidden. And now this looks much more like, I guess, a traditional Moodle course would be. Now that I've got editing on, I've got this complexity of buttons that we normally see in drag bars, etc., etc. So from this point onwards, it's more like the traditional Moodle. What's more interesting to me as we make preparations going forward is how theming is done with Boost. Because Boost isn't really a theme, or not in the way we normally think of it. It's more of a framework. What I mean by that is if I go to the admin console and start to look at the theming area, so under Appearance, and then we've got our themes down here. If I choose the Boost theme, there's almost nothing that you can set here. There's nothing to set in terms of colors, link styles, font sizes, banner graphics, logos. There's no interface for any of that work. It's all been stripped out, and the only way to change this theme is using a technique which involves SCSS. They provide a couple of defaults that you can swap between, but almost everyone will need to write their own SCSS. What that in essence means is writing, SCSS is CSS on steroids. It's got some extra good bits to it, such as variables, etc. But there are really no user interface ways of theming. You must do it in CSS. So that's an assumption then that people have that capability. What Boost is good for, however, is as a kind of a framework that others can develop themes upon. And so there's this notion of parent and child themes. So Boost has a number of children themes which take the kind of scaffolding that Boost provides and then adds extra stuff to them. And so one of them is one called Fordson. Looks a bit different. You can actually control whether you see the editing on or off button. And in fact, behind the scenes, you've actually got a lot of user interface control over the Fordson theme that you don't have in Boost. So if I go back and now I go down and choose the Fordson theme, now I've got a lot more going on. I've got presets again, and they've got some different already out of the box themes, and I can continue to tweak the theme as I could in Boost with SCSS. But I've got now things where I can select colors, etc., etc., menu items, content areas, images, footers, icons. It's the whole panoply of customization. So really the real question for me is what level of support we'll get for these sub-themes, these children themes, because Boost out of the box doesn't offer much to most providers.